Alrighty, week 16 is in the books, which means that there's 1 week left to play. There's like one game that really matters. There's a couple that kind of matter. There was a game that happened today that very much mattered for a couple of franchises who care very dearly about their football, the Eagles and the Cowboys. That game was exactly what you would have expected between two 7-7 teams that are not very good, but one of which is going to get a home playoff game. We're going to talk about that, a couple of other big storylines from this week, and then we're going to move on to Seahawks, Niners.
Man, that'll
excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for next week's Sunday Night Football game. We've already seen a ton of line movement there, so it'll be a really compelling game.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. Let's start with Eagles Cowboys though, and right from the get-go, I noticed that the Eagles were not fazed by the moment. You could just tell. They were laid back. They had Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz running all over the field. They were catching passes.
Yep.
And the Cowboys, on the other hand, were just, you could tell they were tense.
Yeah.
And it manifested itself throughout the game. To sum it up, I think this does it perfectly. The Cowboys dropped 5 passes. They have the far better receiving core, right?
Yep.
The Philadelphia Eagles are playing Greg Ward Jr. out there. Zach Ertz gets hurt. They dropped 0 passes. Dallas Goedert goes 9 for 10. Miles Sanders, Boston Scott eviscerate those linebackers. Sean Lee looks like he's 45. And that's how the Eagles are in the driver's seat.
Yeah, unfortunately for Dallas, there's a couple things that happened, right? Dak got hurt. Amari Cooper got hurt. We were writing an article.
You're calling Amari Cooper hurt?
We're writing an article this week about like sort of what went wrong, right? And I think the biggest thing that went wrong for them is the fact that like some noisy things happened. Dak injured his shoulder last week, and while he was able to throw the ball downfield a little bit this week, he was 1 for 7 or something like that, throwing the ball over 20 yards downfield. He was leading the NFL in that yards on deep passes week 11, right, prior to week 11, and after that he was like a bottom, he's not in the top 10 there. Cooper was a big part of that. And so there were things that I think, you and I and people were counting on Dallas to be, right? Going into the game, they were first in yards per play. I believe first in EPA. And what ended up happening is what we said could happen, which is that Philadelphia just outclasses them. Dallas is not ready to play. And it wasn't exactly the most brilliant performance by the Eagles. They were, basically hanging on for dear life at the end, but ultimately coming off of the bus, being ready to play at home was enough for Philadelphia to, be basically a win away from recapturing the division title for the first time since 2017.
The secondary thing, so the first thing was the Cowboys just didn't show up, right? Dak, you mentioned the big play thing. We thought that would be a huge advantage for them, and it should have been, because they have all these guys that can go down the field, and yet 1 for 7 on throws, 20-plus yards downfield. You can't win a game when your biggest advantage is your receivers and you go 1 for 7 on those big plays.
It also shows you the limitations of the way that they've built their team, right? So DeMarcus Lawrence is the highest paid player in Dallas Cowboys history. He was mostly a non-factor. Jalen Smith, the linebacker they signed before they signed Dak, before they signed Cooper, before they signed Byron Jones, he doesn't even play in this game. As you said, Sean Lee looked like you or me out there in terms of being slow. And then Ezekiel Elliott, right? He gets less than 50 yards rushing because he's out of the game script because they're behind early. It really is one of those things where it rests on the quarterback's shoulders, and then secondary to that, it rests on the coach's shoulders. And while Dallas has, I think, the player at that position to do some things, the combination is just not good enough at this point.
You made the point exactly that I was going to make, which is this shined a light on why you don't pay Zeke Elliott $90 million, because now you have these holes everywhere else. You're trotting Jason Witten out there. Jason Witten, you look like Gronk compared to Jason Witten. I mean, it's ridiculous. He was awful. He's terrible. And then Jason Garrett called this game like he was trying to lose, like he wanted to go somewhere else. I mean, at the end of the half, they have a chance to try and score a touchdown. They're down 10-3. And I wrote this in my notes. It legitimately felt like he had a halftime speech that was like encouraging his guys because they were only down 4. And he didn't want to risk having to tear that that halftime speech up. He's like, I can't risk scoring a touchdown because then I'm going to have to change the score in my script here. It was just like, it was pathetic.
Yeah, it was. And it unfortunately, the Eagles were felled with some of the same things. I mean, they didn't take advantage fully of the circumstances they were in. They kicked 2 extremely long field goals.
The 55-yarder on 4th and 4.
Yeah. Our buddy, colleague Moo wrote the article right after Elliott got the extension. And, of course, all we've seen over the past few weeks is the fact that kicker brilliance is not something that particularly carries. And so now looking forward here, right? We both talked about this privately. Okay, if you have some Dallas to win the NFC East futures, you also have some Dallas under 9, which was a win total bet that cashed today for us. Do you bet a little bit? So there are all these things that can still happen, and then of course there was a Philadelphia +2 today. Like all those things could possibly happen, and we get into this week now, and Philadelphia is a home favorite by a sizable amount to Washington, who looked game today. Like
to be seen whether Haskins plays.
But Keenum was fine in his stead. And then Dallas, of course, they have a home date. I believe Dallas has the Washington Redskins this week, right?
Yeah.
And then
so Philly goes
to New York, right? Okay. So there's a legitimate chance. I mean, New York had Philadelphia on a 17-3 backs against the wall.
That's the real point, is that all of these teams suck.
Yeah.
It's not as the reason that the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys are the ones that have a chance to win the division is simply because of, at the beginning of the season, those other teams literally were like a total trash.
Well, not only do you get right, and
if you restarted the season from like 5 weeks ago,
I would.
The Giants and the Redskins are right there.
Right. I mean, because you look at this game, so that you look at the Giants game, and everybody's giving us crap about the Tua Tagovailoa thing, but
which I stand firmly by.
Yeah, Daniel Jones played terrific today.
Great,
but you had to Quinton Dunbar, Fabian Monroe, 2 corners that start for that team were out.
He beat the Redskins.
Yeah, he beat Washington
in Week 16.
But then Washington, their group of receivers, not even limited to Scary Terry, but they moved the ball efficiently. So that takes me to this week, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, both of these teams could very well lose as probably double-digit favorites to these 2 teams that they're facing. And so Dallas isn't out of it. Philadelphia certainly doesn't have it sewn up. And Philadelphia could lose and still win the division because Dallas could very well lose as well.
So I had a lot of money on the Cowboys to win the NFC East. So I hedged.
And this was after we had the win total under 9 going, because again, the Eagles looked dead.
Exactly. And so I hedged a bunch with Eagles +2.5. Now, I can still middle because I can still get, the Eagles could easily lose. Obviously, so could the Cowboys, but the Cowboys at least play at home.
Yeah.
I mean, the Eagles have to go on the road, to.
Well, and here's the thing.
And Daniel Jones clearly heard what I had to say.
Yeah.
And is really playing hard to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, the thing is in the NFL, what wins more than anything?
Good quarterback play.
Being able to move the football, right? If you can, and that's the thing about when we talk about Jameis, right? Or would you rather have a Jameis or a Mariota, right? I'd rather have a Jameis 10 days out of 10 because he can move the football. He makes mistakes, but you're never out of it because you can move the football. Tonight with the Chicago Bears, what was their issue? They couldn't move the football. At least the Giants can move the football. Dallas's defense hasn't been horrible, but isn't great. I still think that this is a pretty wide open sort of division. Philly obviously the front runner here, but by no means is it a lock.
No, it's actually legitimately a compelling Week 17, which we'll talk about in a second. Okay, let's rewind to Saturday, because Saturday was a great day of football. Mm-hmm. The first game, Houston and Tampa Bay, okay, that was great. But the other 2 games were really interesting because of both those teams in each of those games are either a playoff team or a team that is very interesting from they fell off the planet perspective. Bills Patriots. It felt a little bit to me like Tom Brady kind of got his legs under him a little bit more in this game, and that from a clean pocket he was having a little bit more success, and that bore itself out a little bit. I mean, the Bills defense is no joke. He averaged 9 yards per attempt from a clean pocket, which is really good. But this was, I didn't realize this until I looked at his passing map. He didn't throw a single pass 20-plus yards downfield. And so while it looked good and they covered and all that stuff, I'm still very nervous because you got to have some big playability, or else, as you said, you're just really trying to win games against, like, if you go play the Chiefs again.
I mean, the difference between the Chiefs and the Bills is that Patrick Mahomes can make all, Patrick Mahomes can make all the fluky throws that Josh Allen makes and all the ones in between. you know, like, we give Josh Allen a fair amount of flack, but the fact of the matter is he can make some throws. I mean, the throw he made to John Brown was terrific. The throw he made to Dawson Knox was awesome, but in between he was horrible. I mean, ultimately he couldn't complete basically more than 50% of his passes, save those two. Mahomes, of course, can make the downfield plays, and that offense hasn't reached its peak yet. For to be quite frank. And so if New England runs up against a team like that, we've already seen it happen. It's going to be tough for them. The hard part is, the Chiefs are banking or hoping that the Dolphins can win in New England this week, and then they win at home against the Chargers to lock up the 2 seed. Probably not going to happen, but there is still a chance.
Can I tell you what I'm not afraid of? I'm not afraid of going into New England. I'm not at all.
Yeah, what I'm afraid of is the statistical issues with playing at home against the 6th seed.
Right.
And Tennessee, I mean, this sounds really stupid, but Tennessee has beaten Kansas City like 4 times in a row, including this year. Tennessee's a team, and we were sweating out the New Orleans -2.5 today. Tennessee's a team that's scary. Like, they can make plays. And, whether it's A.J. Brown or freaking Tajay Sharp today, it was... If Tennessee gets the 6th seed and the Chiefs have to play them the first week in the playoffs in Arrowhead, I'm not like shivering or anything, but I'd rather that game be a 100-0 than a 70-30. That's my only issue.
On the Bills side of things, this game seemed way closer than it probably should have been, given that first half, and they scored that touchdown right at the end of the half, and that kind of made it a game because the Patriots just have not been a team that can pull away. Josh Allen, 6.3 yards per attempt from a clean pocket. He was 9 of 20 when clean, which... hey, Bills fans, is really bad.
Yep.
And then he was good under pressure, which is something that, of course, is fluky. And that was ultimately what kept it a close game. But what was the main point coming out of this was the Bills played poorly, and the Patriots couldn't put them away. And that's why, if I'm the Chiefs or I'm the Ravens, and the Ravens obviously don't have to worry about this because they're staying at home, but I look at the Chiefs because the Chiefs, to me, are the most dangerous team in the AFC right now. They should not be worried about going into Foxborough because the Patriots can't run away from anybody.
For sure.
The Niners then played the Rams, and as predicted on this show, it was a much closer game than many people thought it would be. The Rams were able to score some points, 34-31 ultimately. Did this make you, given that we thought it would be closer than the spread was, did this make you less confident in the Niners heading into Week 17? Or more confident?
The problem is it's relative to who they're facing, which is the Seattle Seahawks, for whom I have a lot more problems, than the Niners. The issue with San Francisco reared its ugly head, though. I mean, interior pressure got after Jimmy G. Mm-hmm. Jimmy G made some great throws. He also made some horrible throws.
Yep, really bad throws.
The efficiency in the run game, which was like the cheat code in the past, is not there anymore. And then defensively, there was a lot there, and I know that DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett combined for 1 catch today. But, we saw a little bit of a rapport between, Russell Wilson and his tight end. And, Tyler Higbee had a really good game, as we predicted, against the 49ers. The Niners defense, going into the playoffs, I'm not as afraid of the Niners as I once was. Going into this game in Week 17 against...
Because of their offense or because of their defense?
Both. I think their defense is not this juggernaut that it was for the first 8 weeks of the season. And I think their offense has some deficiencies that, while still good, they are not this team that I'm shivering about, right? Because if you can get pressure on Jimmy G, he's not the same guy. And while he did make a deep throw, he ended up saving us the cover because it was underthrown. He hasn't been great deep, throwing it deep. He's been really good in the intermediate, and he's been good off play action, but deep throws, he's not going to break your back with those. And so again, I'm not particularly afraid of Seattle this coming week if I'm San Francisco, but in the playoffs, I think a New Orleans team, if they match up again, will be game to beat them.
Yeah, would be the favorite, I think.
Well, if the game's in San Francisco, I think San Francisco would be 3-point favorites. I think it'd be basically even. Yeah,
interesting. I don't think so.
I mean, I don't hate the idea, but I would say they would be. Yeah, I guess our numbers would kind of agree with you. I would say that.
Of course they do.
I would say that San Francisco would be a favorite, but they're.
I'm not saying they wouldn't be, but I think they would be less of a. Than
we would
the
be
home
on
field.
the Saints.
I think they would be a 1.5, 2-point favorite.
Okay.
Because the Saints are the better team. But the point that you made about their defense was exactly what I took away from this game, which is, okay, the Rams are not a great offensive team, but they're decent, right?
Yep.
And they came in with a little bit better protection than they had the last time they faced the Niners. And they were able to put up 31 points in this game. And this shines a light on why you should not get super excited about a great defense, because they did play well. They got a ton of pressure. Eric Armstead, Forrest Buckner played really well. Fred Warner played really well. Richard Sherman, Quad Williams played well. And they gave 31 points. Nick Bosa played decently.
Good offense beats defense.
And
the Rams offense was clicking a little bit. There were.
And that's kind of what worries me about, when they go play Seattle, because Seattle has a bunch of playmakers. Now, the difference is crazy to say, but the Rams' pass protection is way better than the Seahawks is.
So watching that game, after the Fred Warner interception for a touchdown, how likely did you give the Rams our pick to cover? I was far less than 50% in my mind.
Yeah.
It was backbreaking.
I still had faith in our boy Jimmy G to kind of let him hang around.
Well, you know what kept us in it was Aaron Donald, right? So
he was tremendous
because they were San Francisco, to their credit, was winning the field position game, right? They got the Rams inside the 10-yard line on like consecutive drives, and they were playing around midfield. And to the Rams' credit, they got turnovers, they got sacks. They did a really good job, I think, defensively, which. For a team that with not a ton to play for, their probability of making the playoffs wasn't particularly high. They played extremely hard, and they should be commended for it.
It'll be very interesting to see what the Rams come out next season looking like.
Yes, very much.
Because there is a lot of falconry that could happen with this team. They make it to the Super Bowl. They lose to the Patriots. They come out the next season. They're not quite as good. They battle.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden the wheels start to fall off. And it'll be very interesting to see if
we
they
convince ourselves that there's a lot there, but then there's always something missing. Like Jared Goff played great, but there were plenty of plays where you're like, oh, that's why he sucked this year. Where you're like, there's no chance he's completing this pass.
I need to figure out what it is that can go from hot to freezing without with a very slight change. I have no idea what I'm trying to think of.
Yeah.
But that's him, right? If it's perfect, he's perfect, and if it's anything different, it's a disaster.
If we comment just for a second, Robert Woods
Just to
is
see how it
amazing.
feels. He's pretty good.
Robert Woods was favorite player material.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
Favorite player?
I mean, he blocks.
Favorite non-chief, you mean?
Well, Travis Kelce was nice tonight. It really helped the fantasy team.
You didn't even call him Travis once tonight. You just called him T the whole night.
Yeah, and then when they threw it to...
Blushing profusely.
When they threw it to Blake Bell, who is not Lake Bell, by the way. When they threw it to Blake Bell, I called him, Low T?
You can go get some of that, whatever Frank Thomas is selling, and fix that. So speaking of the Chiefs, we watched them destroy the Bears in shocking fashion. Mitch Trubisky, it turns out, not very good at football. We had a discussion about this earlier this week, right? Was his 6-game streak of playing well, was it something to buy into it? He turned the corner.
Our lives for the next 10 years is just going to be teams, Twitters, calling us haters, and then 2 weeks later saying they found out first. I got
crazy fan takes for saying that the Khalil Mack trade was a decisive win for the Raiders. The Raiders and the Bears currently have
the same record. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Weird. And we were talking about this just a second ago. I think this is a legitimately interesting question. Are the Raiders even... I mean, how many more wins do they have with Khalil Mack?
I mean, that's the thing. It's all like maybe one, and even then, there's not a game where I watch them and I go, oh man, if they could get pressure on the quarterback, that would be their issue, because they've gotten plenty of pressure on the quarterback.
It's whether David Carr. It's whether Derek Carr is having a good day or not, whether he woke up on the right side of the bed. Yeah. But the Chiefs were really impressive. Now, you said they were impressive defensively, and I pushed back on that by saying, actually, the Bears are just so bad offensively that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But the offense, in a place that certainly there's a home field advantage there for the Bears. The Bears defense has a lot of skill there. So for them to be able to move the ball, Pat Mahomes looked really good, looked healthy. And I would make the case that I am just as afraid of Mahomes and the Chiefs as I am the Ravens. Yeah. Am I insane?
No. I mean, here's the thing. So I've been saying this. It's actually not true anymore. The Chiefs are a top 5 team in terms of opponent offenses faced this year. The worst team in terms of opponent offenses faced this year is Baltimore. So, Baltimore's done a pretty good job of weathering the storm defensively. They struggled in the first month of the year. A lot of great additions, including former Chief Marcus Peters, but also L.J. Fort. Those types of players have done wonders for their defense. But they and the Chiefs are very much on the side of who have you played. Mm-hmm. And Kansas City has looked good, and they've played good teams for the most part. And we're starting to see it. In the last 2 weeks when they played horrible offenses, they've only given up 3 points. So I said this before, and I'll say it again. I think the Chiefs have shown that they're a great offense with a great coach and a defense that's passable. And that's really all you can ask for in the playoffs.
The Chiefs, to me, are definitively the second best team in the AFC. And the Ravens, while I think they are definitively the best team throughout the course of this season, have been throughout the course of the season, I will just point out one thing, which is in today's game against the Cleveland Browns, their highest graded players were Ronnie Stanley, Marshall Yanda, Orlando Brown Jr., Patrick Ricard, and Justice Hill. Now, the point that I'm making is not that Lamar Jackson is not great, because he is, but you're still taking Patrick Mahomes over Lamar Jackson. And as great as being a strong team throughout the season is, it is more important to have the best quarterback than anything else. And so when those two teams match up against each other, which we saw earlier this season, having the best quarterback is going to be the most important thing. And that's what the Chiefs have. I mean, that guy's incredible. Yeah. I think the fact that, he was supposed to be the MVP, looked like he was going to be the MVP through the first, 4 weeks of the season. But the fact that he hasn't been has been a real blessing in disguise.
Yeah, because they have to learn how to win.
They've just flown under the radar.
Yeah. It's great. And the fact is like they had Spencer Ware playing running back tonight. Like, they can literally win with like some pretty like mediocre supporting cast at this point. And Mahomes has been every bit as good. Today he didn't even complete a pass over 20 yards in the air. He was 6 of 7 in the intermediate area. Like, he's just kind of toying around with these teams at this point.
I mean, the counting on his fingers thing.
It's unbelievable.
That was pretty great. That was, how the NBA is always, they're super petty, and they're all, they take every opportunity to be petty. I feel like the NFL needs more of that, and that was a great example of it. All right, a couple of other things. So let's talk about, I think this game deserves a little bit of mention, just a little bit, which is Seattle, San Francisco. And how much does this game really matter for both of these teams?
Oh, a ton.
And so let's go through why.
Well, okay, here, my question to you. What do the Seahawks have other than Russell Wilson and home field advantage?
Not much. But this was kind of why I wanted to ask this question, because does it matter a ton for the Seahawks and matter way more for the Seahawks than it does for the 49ers?
Yes. But the issue to me, and Seattle right now, I believe if you look at their point differential, so they were only up by 26 going into the day. So the only point differential is like plus 12 this year.
No, it's really they're a very average team.
Yeah, they're a very average team. So really, what can this average team do with what's going for them, right? Well, Okay, they can get a week off, right? We still know Dwayne Brown might not play this week. He's going to get knee surgery. Today we had to watch George Fant and Jamarco Jones play left tackle for them. Chris Carson, he was their highest graded player today in terms of our plus minus or whatever. He's out, and he's probably going to be out week 17 per Pete Carroll. Metcalf, Lockett, all of them have been banged up at times. And then defensively, we saw Clowney didn't play. Quandre Diggs, who's been a very good addition, didn't play. These are guys, their defense isn't good fundamentally, but these guys that they've acquired have changed the variance, right? That game in San Francisco, Seattle does not win that game unless Jadeveon Clowney forces turnovers and gets sacks. Quandre Diggs, you're talking about 4 interceptions or whatever since, going and coming into that backfield. Those games are different if there's not those turnovers. They can't play teams straight up. They need these players to be at their best. And I think if they have to play in the first round of the playoffs on the road, it's basically it for them.
I would agree. Whereas the Niners, I have no issue with them going on the road to the NFC East and beating the brakes off of one of those teams. I don't think that's an issue.
I think they
would
beat the Eagles. I think this is going to sound, old takes explode. I think they beat the Eagles 41-3 if they play the Eagles.
I think they would trounce any of those teams.
Dallas could be a team. Dallas is weird where you could catch them on their Rams game, in which case I think they would be back and forth. But on a bad day, they would beat the Cowboys worse than they beat the Eagles.
Because the Rams game mattered, but didn't really matter. In games that really matter, the Cowboys just come out and take a gigantic dump in the middle of the star, and that's exactly what would happen.
T.O. did that once too.
I mean, I'm looking at Russell Wilson today against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals' defense is bad. But he was under pressure on 15 of 37 dropbacks. And this is the tough thing about Russell Wilson, is he's sensational from a clean pocket. But percentage of the time that you are clean matters, because he can only be Herculean under pressure every so often. That's the nature of pressure, right? It's unstable.
Yes.
So today he was 2 for 10 for 23 yards and took 5 sacks, and he was under pressure. And if you're just going to let him be under pressure on 15 to 20 dropbacks, that can happen.
Or if he's going to let himself, right? Because at this point in time,
sure. I think the right tackle, left tackle situation was bad enough.
He completed 0 passes over 20 yards downfield. He actually graded okay, but I think there was some drops there. The issue is that's the reason some quarterbacks are higher variance and some aren't, right? The pressure rate's pretty stable, right? How you perform under pressure is not so much, and if you invite more pressure, you're going to add variance, in a way that guys like Drew Brees do not.
So if we think about this game now, it's happening in Seattle, so they do have the home field there. But when I go back and I think about what happened in the meeting in San Francisco, the San Francisco 49ers, to me, now are a totally different team. In that game against Seattle, they had no receivers, right? They didn't have Kittle. Sanders got hurt.
I forgot that they didn't have Kittle, so that was Dwelly that was the tight end in that game?
It was Dwelly. It was Kendrick Bourne dropping passes left and right.
Forgot about that.
So there is a legit
right.
I really feel as though the Niners in this game are a totally different team, whereas the Seahawks, to me, are a far weaker team.
Yeah, I'll push back just a little bit because Sanders played a little bit in that game, got hurt.
He did.
Yeah, and he got injured. Bourne was absolutely dreadful.
That's what made it worse, though. So he comes in, he plays. Everybody's, no one is prepared for him to be out. He goes out, and then if you remember the first couple of drives he was in there, Boog was having an apparition, getting the stigmata every time that Emmanuel Sanders was running free over the middle.
Yeah, and some of these were dropped, but Jimmy G was 4 of 19 throwing the ball over 10 yards on field in that game.
It was terrible,
and some of them were dropped, but some of them. And the thing is, it's so.
But I don't think you can't put it all on Jimmy G. These guys looked like they had never run a route before.
That's true. And a lot of his bad grade was under pressure. He had a 7.5 passer rating on the 18 pressure dropbacks. So again, does this come down to how healthy the Seahawks are? Because I think today came 100% down to how healthy the Seahawks were. Without Brown, without Clowney, without Diggs. Even Shaquille Griffin was injured last week, came back and played. I think it has a lot to do with how healthy I think it has a lot to do with how healthy Seattle is, because if they're healthy, I do think that they have enough stars to keep this game close.
Interesting.
If Jimmy G is as high, like if Jimmy G plays like he did against New Orleans, this game's over in the first quarter. But he plays enough high variance games to keep the other team in the game.
I don't think it matters how healthy Seattle is. This is all about the Niners. The Niners are a better team through and through.
I agree.
They have the better coaching. They have just all of their players are better at all the positions, except for the quarterback. But the problem for Russell Wilson is that the rest of his players are so bad that he's not going to be, and his coaching is subpar compared to what the Niners have. That he is
they went to set up a 52-yard field goal on 4th and 1. Got to delay a game on purpose and then punted.
Exactly my point. And I think Shanahan has proven over the past couple of weeks against teams that he thinks are legit, he will go for it. And I hope he believes that against the Seahawks. So let me finish my point, though. You said it's the Seahawks being healthy. It has nothing to do with that, because if the Niners are healthy, they are such a better team that it doesn't matter where they're playing. They can come in and just roll over the Seahawks.
Okay. Because I think the issue is going to be that numbers-wise, like if you just grade all the players, look at ELO, you look at quarterback, EPA probably not so much. We're going to talk about where the number is, but I think numerically we're going to be on Seattle this week.
Because of the quarterback.
Because of the quarterback.
And because people have watched. The unfortunate thing is that Seattle lost to Arizona. That's the unfortunate piece, because people are going to overreact to that.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. I do think everything has its price, and in as much as we talked about the Rams, right? Why we bet into the Rams this week. Well, it's like, again, you're fading recency stuff. You faded with the Rams. You faded how bad they played against the Niners the first time, how bad they played the last week, and you're fading the narrative that the loss to Atlanta was just a sandwich spot, that they were just like, forget this game, no one cares, right? And we were right, more or less. I mean, and I think some of that's probably going to be true this week. I think a lot of people are just going to disregard Seattle as a bum team that lost at home to Arizona.
There's no doubt about it.
And forget the fact that San Francisco probably could have lost to Arizona twice as well, right? And so these are two there's one very good flawed team, and there's one very flawed team with good players. And that'll be an interesting game, I think, on Sunday night.
It's going to be fascinating. I'm just so glad that we avoided the Tennessee disaster for a second straight season.
No offense to Tennessee, but you are the boringest team in the NFL.
All of the offense to Tennessee.
Although Tennessee went from being the boringest team in the NFL to a team that's fairly compelling because of Ryan Tannehill. He had another good game. He takes too many sacks, but the play he made to Tajay Sharp on the rollout on 3rd and 1 was really good.
I think that a lot of NFL teams embody their city pretty well.
Yeah.
There are a couple that are like totally different. One of which is Kansas City. Kansas City plays like they should be in LA.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
They're
But they used to play like they were in Kansas when Alex Smith is
sure. But the Tennessee Titans are the opposite. Nashville's a really fun place, vibrant nightlife, like it's awesome, great food, cool city. And for the most part, until Ryan Tannehill came around, they've just been disappointing as can possibly be. Speaking of teams that embody their city, the Monday night game is Green Bay, Minnesota. We're going to talk about this for a little bit, because when we did this podcast last week, remember we saw, Minnesota's more than a field goal favorite against Green Bay. We figure we'll back this. And then what has the line done? It's moved out towards Minnesota. It got to 5.5. It's now 5. And I'm shocked that our model thinks this is pretty efficient. I'm trying to figure out why. And it's really got to be that Kirk Cousins has just played so much better than Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, what else is there?
Well, I think it's because 5 is a dead number. So all of them, and then the Vikings are a very efficient team on offense, and defense as well. The Minnesota Vikings over the last 2 years, and again, I've been the one that's banging the drum against this, but Minnesota has given up negative EPA per pass play adjusted for context and all that kind of stuff. So, they're not that way anymore, right? I've tweeted out all the backup quarterbacks they've played, but from a historical perspective, they've been decent. And so our numbers are basically above 3 or 3 or 4 in every case. And then the fact that 5 is a dead number, it's going to draw it towards.
But say it's 4, like it was.
Yeah.
That is shocking to me. This is a game that matters for both teams. Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback on one side. Kirk Cousins is a quarterback on the other side, and we're not backing Aaron Rodgers.
Well, the other thing is that, again, the coaching, I think, is better in Minnesota.
Which, I would agree.
Stefanski's a top 5 offensive play caller. Zimmer is a top 5 defensive play caller. Green Bay, has been better this year, although I think we're finding out McCarthy maybe wasn't the only problem there.
No, certainly not.
Pettin's a little overrated, I think, as a defensive play caller. So I do think Minnesota deserves some backing here, although as we talked about, we did get the first leg. We got Buffalo plus 12. Coming back, we got the best of the number here. Green Bay is plus 11.5 in the second half of our
teaser.
Lock of the week teaser. So I do think this game plays close. The issue is, and we're just going to get started on the motivational aspect from here on out, right? Minnesota basically has to win out to win the division, which Chicago looked dead tonight, so that's not as big of a deal. But they also have to have Green Bay lose in Detroit to David Blau. Now, Detroit was competitive for most of the game today, but how motivated is Minnesota here?
I don't know if being motivated. I actually don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
Yeah,
because I have zero faith in Kirk Cousins when he has to be motivated to win, because I've seen those pregame huddles that he does, and they're so bad that you could take all of the motivation. It's basically a reverse motivational speech. You're amped up to play. You're super stoked. You're like,
let's go.
Let's go. And then Kirk Cousins gets in there and he delivers this speech, and you're just like, shit.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
So I don't know that being motivated is actually a good thing for the Vikings, which is one of the reasons that initially, when we talked last Monday morning, I thought that the Packers were a tremendous play. And then, of course, slap in the face.
I mean, you look at their head-to-heads, right? You're looking at basically, I mean, this game, the last 3 of them have all been within a score, including one tie. When you had Brett Hundley, who actually played pretty well today, in Kyler Murray's stead. But once you go back a little bit, it's a little bit a little bit spread out a little bit when you have backup quarterbacks. But these two teams generally play pretty close. So
I just can't, like I said, I can't see it being more than a 1-score game.
What if Aaron Rodgers performs in a manner in which he did against the San Francisco 49ers? I mean, then you're looking at a team that simply can't move the ball against a Minnesota team that Minnesota has its own problems.
Minnesota's defense is bad, though.
I agree, but and I'll be really interested. I think there's a sneaky thing here that could help Minnesota, which is that Cook is out.
And they're going to be forced to throw.
And they might be forced to throw. Our friend
Will the play action work, though?
Yeah. Our friend Peter King messaged me earlier. He was asking about the Vikings playing 2 or fewer wide receivers. They've played 2 or fewer wide receivers at a rate that we've not seen in the PFF era, except for the 2006 San Diego Chargers. Will they open it up a little bit now that they don't have their star running back this week? That might spell doom for the Packers. I don't know. I still think it's close. It'll be fun. I'll be in Minneapolis-ish for the game, so it'll be kind of fun.
You gonna go?
I'm hosting the radio show. You go on Matt's show all the time.
So you can't go to the game because you're hosting a radio show?
I can't go to the game because I don't have tickets.
Oh.
And I'm hosting a show in Minneapolis the time before, and then I'm going to my family's Christmas party. So
sick.
Western Wisconsin.
Sweet.
All of them are all Packer fans, so we'll see how they handle the Vikings nipping at their heels.
All right, you ready to get into the games?
Let's do it.
So we're going to go through the games that matter, and then the games that don't matter, we'll go real quickly through.
I have a feeling we're going to be wronger than we are.
Oh, absolutely. I anticipate being very wrong on all of these because, who even knows what the motivation is for some of these teams? So where will the lines end up? Yeah. And then we'll try and decide what our favorites are at the end. So let's start off with the biggest one of the bunch. San Francisco, Seattle. What'd you have this at?
Well, I had seen this at a time. I had it basically at what the look ahead was. I had it as a pick.
Okay. I had Seattle -1.
It is currently 3 and shaded towards San Francisco. So the betting market currently believes that San Francisco is more than 6 points better than Seattle.
San Francisco is -3.
San Francisco is -3, yeah.
So before the games happened, you assume that Seattle beats Arizona.
You'd think.
Right? And it was my belief that the Niners are a better team. The home field in a Week 17 game in Seattle, I figured if both teams were the same, power rating wise, that Seattle would be about a 3.5, 4-point favorite. Mm-hmm. And obviously you're crossing key number there. A pick is fine, -1. I'm shocked that San Francisco is -3 in this.
Yeah, I think I actually grabbed a little a Seattle +3 when I saw it because to me, I think Seattle is going to be the side that like basically everybody's on, everybody who does any sort of analysis is going to be on Seattle, and then I think the public's going to be on San Francisco. I think it's going to be one of those games.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, because I think people are going to say, okay, San Francisco is healthier. Seattle has the propensity to look like crap at times. I could be wrong. I mean, there was a game we were on Green Bay, and weirdly, also the public was on Green Bay in San Francisco because people were like, "Well, I love backing Aaron Rodgers as an underdog," and that was enticing.
Right. So that's what I think.
People might think the same thing about
Russell Wilson. I mean, we've learned a ton. I believe that people are going to dig up their trend zone book and pull out the times that Seattle has been a home underdog and absolutely just sweat themselves to death trying to bet on Seattle.
Doesn't this, though, have the same sort of
underdog
feeling in terms of the number movement as Houston versus Tampa? So, like, that game...
Aside from the fact that it's not a terrible game.
Well, no, but, like, Tampa, like, lost 2 of their best players. The number, like, fundamentally was more around to pick them, and then eventually got bet out to 3, and then it was, like, jockeying at 3 basically all week. And Tampa Bay, like... they pushed that number basically because, they played like crap in the first half. But I think that's kind of the idea is like, oh, people saw this at -1 or 0 or whatever and started grabbing San Francisco, early on thinking that this would happen to Seattle with all the injuries. And then it did. And then now it's at 3. I think we're just basically be jockeying at this number the rest of the week.
I would be stunned if it didn't move back towards Seattle. I'd be shocked.
Okay. I hope it stays at 3.
Why?
Because I think that'll be a compelling. I think at 2.5 it's far less enticing to bet either side.
I agree. I think it could move more than that.
Okay.
6 points is a ton. They beat him last time.
Dude, I know. I'm with you 100%. I mean, the last time it implied so we've seen a 3-point difference in the strength of the team. There could be some inside information basically about how injured Dwayne Brown is, and then but if they're responding to CJ Procise and Chris Carson being injured, they're idiots. Yeah,
stop. I do really believe that the Niners could, like, if you're like, hey, one team wins running away, it's the Niners.
Well, it reminds me a little bit of the Rams remember in 2017, Seattle went to LA and won kind of a fluky game, right? I think we picked that game. And then the following, 10 weeks later, they go to Seattle and they're maybe like a 1-point underdog and they rolled them, right? It was like 47-3 or something like that. I could totally see that happening. And people saw them luck out earlier in the season and then get blown out in the second half of the year. But
you're also going to have the narrative of the Niners pass rush is going to eat this downtrodden Seattle offensive line for lunch. And that could very well be true, but honestly, is that really what you want to bet on? You want to bet on Russell Wilson having no shot in this game? There's no way Russell Wilson comes out of this game without having a chance to win in some way in the second half.
The narrative,
no way.
I'm hoping that Seattle sees their lack of running backs as an opportunity to throw the football. Because I mean, they were handing the ball to Homer on first and second down by 2 scores multiple times in this game. It was unbelievable.
I mean, that's what I was saying earlier, right? Like, Jimmy G is the worst quarterback in this game, but his environment is so much better than Russell Wilson's, right?
Real.
It's like, it's honestly like living in 2 different worlds. I mean, Jimmy G has a wonderful situation to be a good quarterback. He's an average quarterback that play is elevated dramatically. Yep. And Russell Wilson has to basically be Houdini on all of the third downs in order to get this team above average. It's crazy. Okay, next one. Philly goes to New York to play Daniel Jones, who is now the greatest quarterback in the history of the universe after beating the Washington Redskins.
That's right.
I'm clearly an idiot for saying that they should take, even if he is the greatest quarterback, we've never seen a team with two great quarterbacks ever survive.
Yeah.
That's never happened.
San Francisco being one.
No, that never happened. That's a fairy tale. They didn't have Joe Montana and Steve Young at one point and ended up winning
The
Super
Vikings
Bowls.
didn't have Brad Johnson and Randall Cunningham either. The Chiefs didn't have Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith.
Yeah,
They had Alex Smith. They didn't need Mahomes.
If you have two great quarterbacks, you have none.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about this game?
I had, where is it here?
Oh my goodness.
Do you have it?
I
'Cause
am.
I can't find mine.
I'm wrong. I had Giants plus 5.5, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, I had Giants plus 3.5.
I'll tell you why I'm wrong here. I saw Philadelphia versus Washington spread 2 weeks ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Washington gave Philly a game. Now, we did not think of the domination Philly would achieve today before we did this, but the market certainly has baked that in because Philadelphia. Well, no, actually,
It's 4.5.
4.5. Okay, I'm with you then. So it's right between us. I don't hate that number at all.
Nope. And there's
That certainly shows you the respect or lack thereof that the market has for
Philly.
Philly, yeah.
Right? They just looked at that game and they go, "Wow, this is an atrocity."
Yeah.
This is that game was so much more about the Cowboys just being totally unprepared to actually play a meaningful football game. They just weren't ready to do it. And the Eagles, to their credit, have a little bit of moxie. They've got a guy named Boston Scott,
If you had to bet a side, which one would you?
generational talent. Well, I will probably be betting Philly in this game because I still have the Dallas, NFC East.
So if you do 4.5 on the money line, okay, that's not a terrible price to lay. You're basically laying -2.
Right. It's not the worst. I think I would probably still take Philly. I would fade the Daniel Jones noise.
Okay, I like it.
I think it's a pretty efficient line. What about you?
I think Philly is the new Atlanta Falcons still, and they reminded me a lot of, you remember that game that Atlanta had to play against Carolina in week 17 of 2017? That felt a lot like that, where they clearly dominated the game but couldn't put the other team away.
Couldn't put it away.
And
Well, it'd be such a Falcon-y thing to win this game that basically clinches it.
yes, and then not go
But
back.
doesn't quite.
Yeah. Well, the funniest thing would be if Philadelphia were to lose this game, but then Dallas were to lose as well.
That would be so
if you're the
perfect.
Cowboys, are you upset that today didn't eliminate you? Period. Because Dak's injured, right? There are players that are banged up on that team,
And now you have to go out
and now you have
play.
to go out and basically play a Redskins team.
That is no joke.
That is, yeah, they're going to play hard.
So speaking of that game, Washington goes to Dallas.
By the way, under 46 is the play in that game.
In Philly,
Yeah.
New York.
Philly's an under team. The Giants are going to do whatever Philly does.
Yeah, but Daniel Jones is a turnover-worthy machine.
Okay. I think we might like under in that game, but
I don't hate it. I'm just saying. Okay, Washington goes to Dallas. What did you have?
okay. I think Dallas rests their starters. So I obviously thought Dallas was going to win this game.
Yeah.
So I
Idiot.
put it if they rest their starters are +3. And then I said if they actually have to win the game, something's gone so badly. So then I put +7.5.
You mean Dallas?
Or sorry,
minus 7.
Dallas -7.5
Yeah.
at home. Yeah.
I was even shorter than you. I had Dallas -6.5,
Yeah.
and it's 10.5.
Yeah. So we're Washington fans this week then?
10.5 is a ridiculous
It's an
number.
egregious amount. Let's look at what the fundamentals would be.
Can we talk about for a second how on a huge 3rd and 1?
Yeah, it's less than 10. Let's put it that
a
way.
huge 3rd and 1. Zeke took himself out of the game.
And Pollard fumbled.
And then Pollard fumbled. Right. But I mean, $90 million. That's what you pay for.
I know. It's unreal.
You imagine if you had Imagine if Dak Prescott were like, you know what, I'm going to take this one off.
It's the best, though, because
My
Dallas
backup
is a
in there.
positive EPA team running the ball this year. Zeke, I think, has been more efficient than Pollard on an EPA per play basis, and it doesn't matter.
Nope.
All it matters
Fumbling, it does matter, though.
Yeah, all that matters is being efficient.
So
throwing the
how
ball.
is this 10.5?
It's 10.5 because they need it, and I think Keenum's being undervalued. So, like, people saw how well Haskins has played recently and said, oh, he's probably hurt for the rest of the season, so they're going to play Keenum. Their defense is banked up. Dallas has a pretty good offense. Like, Washington's defense is trash. Like, they were getting roasted today.
Sure.
So, like, there's a lot there. Our numbers actually don't think it's that bad. I mean, like, for example, if you just take ELO, it's about 9.8. So it's like EPA per play, it's 10.5. You know, so there are some play level fundamentals here that like do point in this game's direction.
Yeah. What is Dak's shoulder not working?
Well, that's exactly it, right? So like you don't even know how like
how does that?
Yeah, there are games like this all the time.
How does Amari Pooper figure into this?
Stop! Don't call him that.
That was a disaster, man.
He's had one catch.
What a joke.
He's had, I believe, one catch over 20 yards downfield the last 5 weeks.
You know how there are some wide receivers like Julian Edelman? Julian Edelman was banged up as hell on Saturday.
He's a gamer.
Dude just comes out and makes plays.
Yep.
Amari Cooper, what, like his fingernail?
You called him Amari Pooper. Brutal.
That's what he was doing with the football.
He was.
It's a joke, man.
Well, and Gallup was, and Cobb are the receivers that showed up for them, and even
And
Gallup.
Gallup just blew Dak Prescott had Tavon Austin wide open, sails him, then has Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup drops it. Jalen Mills, however, takes full credit for it. Jalen Mills gets roasted off the line of scrimmage. Gallup drops the pass. Jalen Mills gives every cornerback.
Yeah.
Not on my watch. Not on this turf.
God grant me the confidence of Jalen Mills.
Not today. I forced that drop by being two steps behind him at the catch point.
Yep. Okay, so we have that game.
Tennessee,
Houston. This game was Houston -1 and the look ahead. And now, what do you have it at now?
So how does this game matter? It doesn't matter for Houston except for seeding.
It could, yes. So if Houston thinks that there's a chance that the Chargers beat the Chiefs, then it matters for seeding. And so if you're Houston, right, like I would say that there's a galaxy brain level of care that you have to have about this game. If you win, Kansas City loses, then you get to face Pittsburgh in the first round, which is a gift because Duck is terrible.
Suck.
Because Duck is terrible. If you lose, you have to play Buffalo in the first round, which is not going to be easy, right? Now, if you win, there's a chance you play Buffalo anyways. But you still I think the biggest thing is like you don't want to have to play Tennessee, you know. And I guess so so they beat Tennessee and they get that's really the reason. I don't think they ever have to play Tennessee, but I do think Tennessee's a scary team in the playoffs relative to Pittsburgh. So you do want to
by a mile
kick them out.
And the Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders are scarier than the Steelers.
Oh, by far.
Yeah, but not.
Absolutely.
So that's where I'm like. So I said Houston would be 2.5-point favorites.
I had Houston -3,
and it is actually, I believe Houston is +4,
which 4.5.
+4.5. I mean, this is one where we have to figure out who's playing, right? Like if they sit Watson and
they're not. I can't imagine Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson is the person that I believe Deshaun Watson is, there's no way Deshaun Watson is not playing in this game.
Here's a question, though, and I do think of this. So I agree with you, but here's a non-trivial thing. Will Fuller does change that offense fundamentally. And it looked as though he left the game again against Tampa with a soft tissue injury. Now, they're probably not going to rest Watson for this game, but it's probably fair to assume they'll rest Fuller. In which case, I do think the calculus changes for them. Now, that being said, the last time they placed Tennessee had as many issues in the secondary as they do now. And it wasn't Fuller. It was Kenny Stills. So I still like Houston here. If everybody's playing, I like Houston here plus the 4.5.
So this game's at 4:25.
Yeah, they moved. I think they moved all of these games where like it's basically win and in to the late slot.
Yeah, but where does Pittsburgh play?
Well, Pittsburgh's line is not up there, I don't think, because they don't have the quarterback result. Because they went duck, dip, dive, and dodge today.
So that game will be at 4:25.
I believe so, yeah. So okay. I think the games at 1 o'clock could impact seeding, but not impact who gets in and who gets out. And then the games at 4 are who's in and who's out situation.
I still think even without Will Fuller, 4.5.
We're starting to see some Tannehill warts, right? Like the numbers that are in the box score still look pretty damn good for him, but he's taking sacks, he's missing some receivers, and he's not handling pressure nearly as well. So, like, Tannehill's been great, and I think he's earned a chance to be some team starting quarterback next year, but he's not on this like hot streak he was on just a couple weeks ago.
All right, so Pitt Steelers Ravens is not up. What did you have that at?
Yeah, I had. Actually, I think I saw it somewhere. But I had Pittsburgh as -3 because, again, I thought this would be a situation where Baltimore would be enticed to sit their players.
Yeah. So before, I have a line from before Sunday night, but I said that it would be Baltimore -3.
And you are at, I see it currently at a place at one of the sports books here, and it is Ravens -3.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just a wizard when it comes to this.
No, and I think you're being fair. I expected Pittsburgh to bounce back fundamentally today, and they did not.
They did not.
And
Darnold was atrocious, and they still couldn't beat him.
I mean, as we're finding out, defense can only take you so far, and Pittsburgh's defense is very good. But when your offense cannot move,
when you can't score more than 10 points,
well, it's not even scoring points so much as it's moving the football. You have to be able to control the game, right? Like, and as much.
Well, you do that by running.
Yeah, right. But Le'Veon Bell was an absolute nightmare today, and they still somehow won. Interesting. So, where are you here then? Because what do you think the Ravens do?
I think they rest their players.
I mean, they should. If they rest their players. So, like, let's say it's RG3 from quarter 2 on.
I'm not putting Lamar Jackson out there.
No, especially the Steelers' defense is fierce.
There is zero chance that Lamar Jackson is awesome.
Yes.
He has been so great. What good do you get out of putting him out there to run a couple of times?
And here's the other thing. You are not afraid of the Steelers in the playoffs.
No.
In fact, you probably want to
of any organization that is shrewd enough to understand the value of rest versus actually having to play that team later on and all of the karma and juju and no pun intended that goes on with that. It's the Ravens, right? They'll understand this. They'll say, look, any chance of risking an injury to Lamar Jackson is just not worth it.
Plus, here's some unpaid advice, by the way. If you throw this game and let Pittsburgh win, and somehow they get in over Tennessee, and Pittsburgh somehow is more game in the playoffs than you think, you get to place them in week 2 because they'll be the 6th seed and you'll be the 1 seed. So there's a myriad of reasons why the Ravens might want to give the Steelers this game. My only question is, can the Steelers beat the second string of the Ravens? Because if you can't move, like their offense is an absolute dumpster.
I think it's a much more compelling game. I would love to see RG3 versus Doc Mason, whatever it is.
RG3,
I mean, that's why it's -3.
RG3 back in the playoffs.
I think that's why it's -3, right? Because there's a legit, hey, the second string of the Ravens probably still good enough to beat the Steelers. New Orleans goes to Carolina in a game that also matters because New Orleans can get the 1 seed.
They'll be big Seattle fans.
If Seattle, then they get the 1 seed. If the Niners win, then the Niners get the 1 seed.
Unless Green Bay wins out, I believe. Because Green Bay, I believe, has a tiebreaker over New Orleans. I have to look. But
sorry. If San Francisco loses and Green Bay wins out.
Yes. Yeah. So Green Bay has to, so I believe New Orleans' path to the 1 seed is to be the only 13-3 team. But yeah, so this game matters. Where did you have it? Were we Will Greer stands when we put this out here?
No, I was not. I had New Orleans favored by 14.5.
Oh my goodness. What did I have?
I anticipated Will Greer would be better than he was today, But
he was although the punt team for Carolina was brutal.
What is he supposed to do?
I had New Orleans at minus 13.5.
Wow, it's only 12.5. That is impressive.
So New Orleans fell behind today. This was a classic, horrible Sean Payton coming out. This was a game that the Saints play in September.
Yep.
They had 9 penalties.
Usually against Tampa Bay.
They had 9 penalties, or the Cleveland Browns. They had 9 penalties in the first half. They had, they had 9 penalties in the first half. They were brutal, and they took care of business in the second half. They got a little lucky. I think the Khalif Raymond fumble could have been a penalty, but ultimately they did it, and they got us to the window.
I did have 13.5.
This game is in Carolina.
I was looking at something else.
This game is in Carolina. We had New Orleans minus 9.5 the last time they played, did not cover. I don't know. I think I lay off this one because I don't know. I think New Orleans kind of slow plays their way through this game.
I could see that, but
Will Greer's also like...
Will Greer was so bad in that game. The thing is, they have no reason to risk. I don't think they're that worried about...
They're not that afraid of going to San Francisco, or they shouldn't be, right? They're not that afraid of going to San Francisco.
Although they have a legit home field advantage. That's the thing. The Saints really do have a home field advantage, and I think that matters to them. But 12.5 is a lot. I do think that's still a tad short. So if I had to go one way, I'm going New Orleans. Green Bay goes to Detroit. So Green Bay obviously needs to win tomorrow and then beat Detroit and hope that a couple.
Well, and not only that, they don't need for the 1 seed, but to win the NFC North, they just have to win this game.
Right.
This particular game. Yep. I said Detroit would be getting 11.5 at home.
I said 10.
Okay, let's see. Do we have? It's 10. Good for you. You got that one.
Thank you.
I think
just nailing it over here. Week 17 Wizards.
I can't believe. So Detroit had a lead in the second half of that game. We had them. So we didn't have them all week, and then all of a sudden they got out to 8, and we ended up picking up Detroit as a pick. Ugh. And again, they had a chance there, but ultimately couldn't.
There's nothing worse than waking up Sunday morning
and finding in a couple extra picks,
finding out that you're back in David Blau.
Yeah, Blow.
Well, he blew.
Yeah, he did blow. Although, like Kenny Galladay,
they were up in that game
a couple times,
man,
10-0, and they were. Kenny Galladay's playing hard, and he's very good. So
it's fair.
Okay, I mean, here's a question. How if you have a bunch of Green Bay to win the NFC North tickets, let's say minus 150 and more expensive, how okay are you with yourself right now? You're not hedging at all.
Probably not.
Yeah, me either.
I feel pretty good about myself, especially having Kirk Cousins in a place where he needs to win and is motivated.
Jeez, that's shade.
I swear to God, the funniest thing that I have witnessed in quite some time is the Kirk Cousins pregame speech. So Sunday night tapes them because they want to know if they're good or not. They can air them as part of the pregame.
Yeah,
it's like a joke.
We had a conversation about a couple of my friends who run this podcast for the Vikings called Climbing the Pocket. We had this conversation about Kirk, and I said, Kirk kind of fits. Kirk would fit into Minneapolis as a retiree, but not as a football player. And I said, Tom Brady's the kind of player who could call somebody's girlfriend like a breezy or something like that, and everybody would laugh. Mm-hmm. And Kirk would call her that and he'd get his ass kicked. Yep.
Kirk has a very punchable face.
Yeah. So it's like, okay. What's the next game? The rest.
The next game is the rest.
Should we just go through in rapid fire, and then as we did last week, just kind of pick a side?
Yes.
Okay.
First game is the Jets at the Bills. I had the Bills minus 10.
Wow. I had the Bills minus 2.5, and it's minus 1.
So is this because there's
nothing to play for?
They're just resting their players. Yeah.
If you have a Jets under 7 ticket, though, there's something to play for.
So I thought there was seeding.
No,
and there is none.
No, because
I'm the idiot.
Yeah, but the best the Titans or the Steelers can be is 9 and 7.
Actually, no. It's just that I really like the Bills, and I think they're a great team.
So
even their second string.
What do you think? I mean, are you going quickly to the book right now and laying a point with Buffalo?
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is it's the better quarterback getting points in this game.
Sure, I do think they both kind of suck. That's the thing. I don't think Buffalo. Do you think they rest their guys?
I don't know. I think it's.
They don't strike me as a rest their guys team.
I don't know.
Sean McDermott doesn't look like a guy that likes rest.
I think Matt Barkley could beat the.
That's the other thing. All right, Atlanta, Tampa Bay. I had Tampa Bay -3.
I had Tampa Bay -4.5, and we are both long on. It is a pick 'em.
Whoa.
Over under this game 50.5.
I mean,
Jameis is currently
there's no way
309 yards above Dak Prescott for the passing yardage title.
No way that I am ever betting on Jameis Winston as a favorite. I can't do it.
So Jameis is 309 yards above.
Congrats.
Of Dak. Well, no, it's not done yet. Okay, so he needs to play well here. Yeah, this is the exact same game we had last year. We actually liked Atlanta -1. Tampa got out to a 17-0 lead. Falcons got the lead, gave it up, got it back. It was
compelling and rich.
Very Falcons-y game. I would take Tampa here.
I wonder who coaches Atlanta next year.
Jason Garrett.
Ooh. Who's coaching the Cowboys next year?
Well, all my Eagles fan friends hope it's Jason Garrett.
Right, of course.
Kellen Moore.
Yeah, maybe. What about McCarthy?
Yeah, I think McCarthy ends up in. I think
Cleveland,
New York.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, who is the best coaching candidate? It's probably McCarthy, unless you can get Lincoln Riley. But why would Lincoln Riley ever leave Oklahoma to?
I think you go to Dallas, but I wonder if he wonders if Dallas is a good enough quarterback.
I don't think that's the thing.
He does take quarterbacks.
He is very confident in his ability to take a quarterback to the next level. To me, Lincoln Riley right now is the CEO of Oklahoma. He goes to Dallas. He's the vice president, right?
Yep.
He's working for Jerry Jones. I think he has seen how. I mean, he's got a great gig, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. All right. Next up, we have Cleveland, Cincy, and I have Cincy as a 5-point underdog at home against the Browns.
Man, I said 7.5, and it is a 2.5 point proposition. We are going to be Cleveland. We're going to be on Cleveland as a short road favorite for the second time in 3 weeks, and it is going to. Can you imagine? Cincinnati has got this first overall pick locked up. They have license to win this game. And Freddie Kitchens, can you imagine? That team is not going to be ready to play this game.
I think Kitchens has kind of lost a little weight over the past couple of weeks.
You mean like the anchor, that was his job?
Who's coaching the Browns next year?
Man, I McCarthy's not a terrible one. Like, I would say like Kevin Stefanski.
Ooh, interesting.
Because they passed him up the last time.
I've got one for you. Eric Bieniemy.
Eric sleeping with Bieniemy. Mm-hmm. Nice.
I like that. Not necessarily your pun that I've heard a million times, but the fact that he could be the coach.
Maybe Matt Nagy.
Ooh. We did Green Bay, Detroit. Indy goes to Jacksonville. I have Jacksonville as a 4.5 point underdog.
Yeah, I said 3. It is 3.5.
Great.
I mean, that game, I do not want to touch with a 40-foot pole.
What a game.
Gardner Minshew season.
The Chargers go to Kansas City. I have Kansas City as a 9.5 point favorite, and I'm probably too short.
I said 10.5. I don't see it anywhere.
Kansas City -7.5 before Sunday night.
And they laid the smack down.
So I might be perfectly spot on.
I mean,
there.
if they are anything
less than 10,
I
would take the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I saw everything I needed to see.
What about
Chicago, Minnesota? in Minnesota. What do you
I
have?
said Minnesota minus 9.5.
That's exactly what I said.
And I don't see it here.
Early look ahead, Minnesota minus 7.
Yeah,
I can't imagine that stayed the same after Chicago.
If Minnesota wins tonight too, it's probably going to inflate.
Chicago's offense is so bad. Miami, New England. I had New England. This was the one that I had minus 14.5.
Same, and it is 16.5. Are we going to be on Fitzy?
That's a lot of points.
They have license, dude. So if you have a Miami plus over 4.5 win total, some motivation, but I don't think it's actually going to be winnable for them.
You got excited there. You got real excited there.
Nope.
Oakland, Denver. So this game actually does matter. I don't know, right? Because it's being played at the same time. Oakland will be motivated. Denver is motivated.
Denver doesn't have motivation other than they want to finish the season okay.
Other than they're playing a quarterback who they want to see if he's their future, and there's a rivalry game, and so they probably want to knock the Raiders out.
And they've had a decent second half of the season, right? Yeah. I said Denver. I said Denver minus 2.5.
That's exactly what I said.
And it's Denver minus 4, and so I'm going to bet the Raiders.
Yes, same.
I don't know why. Denver's a good team. Like
Denver is not a better team than the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, that's right.
So the fact that they are favored by 4 in a game that the Raiders have to win is a joke.
Yeah.
Arizona, Los Angeles.
I said Rams minus 7.5.
Ooh. I said Rams minus 9, which was stupid. There's no line for this game.
And that's because Brett Hundley had to replace Kyler Murray today. And
a real shame.
He did great, I thought. He played pretty well.
Congrats.
Kyler Murray also played well before his injury. So,
all right.
That seems to be it, man.
You got to bet some games. What are your favorites?
Yeah, so we're going to go Oakland plus 4.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah.
I like Oakland plus 4. I really like Washington getting 10.5. That to me is an absolute joke, and I don't care if it's Case Keenum or not.
Wow, Houston's out to plus 5 already. I've seen in some places.
I would have to wait. I'll probably put a little bit on it tonight, just because I assume Deshaun Watson is going to play. But I could see Bill O'Brien trying to rest him.
Yeah.
Any others that you really like?
Not really. No, Buffalo minus 1. I have to hear that they're not playing anybody for me to believe that they're just going to be like, oh yeah, let's like limp into the playoffs this way. Mm-hmm. Especially, so here's the thing. We should probably do a study on this, but after you lose week 16, are you more likely to bend, like, you know what I'm saying? Because after a loss, I feel like
if you lose and you have everything locked up versus you win and you have everything locked up, I agree.
Yeah, so like I think coming off of a loss, there's a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth. They at least play their guys a little bit.
I couldn't agree more. And then depending on what the Kansas City line actually is, what you can get it at, I
pick your score for that game.
Right. I like them winning by quite a bit. I don't think there's Seattle plus 3. As much as it pains me to say, there is value there, in my opinion, based on the way that I think the market is reacting to how both of these teams just played, and ignoring the fact that you can throw all of the numbers out in the rivalry game. I heard Rex Ryan say this today. He was in peak, like old school, nothing matters.
Like football guy.
Yeah, it was pretty great. So there's actually some value in Week 17, which is fun. Sunday night really matters. A couple of these other games really matter, and you can actually bet some games and have some fun. All right, that's it with the?
I think that's it, man.
Do you have any confessions this week?
Trying to think.
Aside from standing me up for dinner.
Oh, that's right. Well, I actually left something on at home.
Okay,
I feel
so
really
can
bad.
you actually tell me what it was?
Yeah, I was cooking myself dinner, and I had something that was long that I had made something quick, and then I had something on the burner that was low.
Okay.
And so then I literally forgot it was there. And then I remembered it was there, and I couldn't get a hold of any of my neighbors, so then I went back.
Had to run home and get
Nothing was burning down, which was good, but
that's what I thought
concerning.
it was.
But I was too embarrassed to say it because you had just made fun of me for like.
And I feel bad. I legitimately did. I did think, however, that it was ironic that I had just made fun of you.
Well, no, that was what made me think of it. Yes. And so then I
saved your life.
You did. You saved my house. Yeah.
You were mad at me for making fun of you for being basically what no one knows what we're talking about. Basically, I made fun of you for your wife is with the kids, already in Minnesota. You're a bachelor, trying to survive on their own without their wife there. And I just made a joke about how like it would be funny to observe you and Steve Palazzolo trying to do this without their wives there to take care of them. And you did not like that. I understand.
Yeah.
But I ultimately saved your home.
You did. I don't know if it would.
I will accept.
Would have really happened, but
I will accept the gift. The bad thing is that you missed out on a really good dinner.
I did. But at the same time, the problem is like I had eaten already. Like because
you're telling me you couldn't have had a little.
And so like I would have looked like Andrew Billings after.
Okay, so this is my confession. So Austin and I went out to dinner. And I was planning, I thought you were going to come too. I was going to buy you guys both dinner as like a Christmas gift because both of you are tremendously good friends of mine. And I wanted to do that. In fact, even Ayers over here, who's diligently taking down notes, could have gotten a free dinner. But,
right.
Duty calls. So we go over there. We have a great dinner. I order a bottle of wine. Got drinks. They recommended 2 dishes per person. We ordered like 3.5, 4.
You do go full send on those things.
They had 2 desserts on the menu. Of course, you get both. And then I went home, and Saturday Night Live was on. Eddie Murphy was hosting. Eddie Murphy's an amazing comedian, by the way. And I was like, I want to watch this, but I'm still a little hungry. Burned a lot of calories that day. Put a little popcorn in the microwave.
The only people who know how many calories you burn are you and Renner, by the way.
There's one, I share my calories with Renner and with like a coworker of my girlfriend who like I randomly went out to dinner with, and she was like, oh, you have an Apple Watch? We got to share calories. I beat Renner by over 2,000 calories yesterday. And so I put some popcorn in the microwave, had a little chocolate at about 1 a.m. And I felt like I woke up this morning and felt awful.
$1 million? Oh, okay.
Yeah, felt great. Anyways, that's my confession. I saved your life and the life of your home. And for that, I deserve some credit. We will be back on Thursday. You'll be back?
Yep, I will be.
We're doing it on Thursday, week 17. We might look ahead to some wild card games.
Yeah, I mean, we could even talk about bowls.
Wow. No. Maybe college football playoff?
Maybe.
Anyways, we appreciate you guys. Thank you. Peace out.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.